Before we begin, thank you very much to Totally Not Soundwave for joining my Patreon campaign. I do genuinely appreciate it. Whether you are Soundwave or not, I do appreciate the generosity and the desire to keep the channel going. You owe a request, by the way, if you want to request something of me, if you haven't done so already. Thank you very much for the support. Thank you for keeping it going. And I will keep going for you for as long as this keeps going, which seems to be a long time. All right, so it's Mario Day today, which is why I'm wearing my Mario shirt, but that's all that we're going to talk about, because if I talked about the trailer, I would get DMCA'd, and if I actually talk a video game, I am going to, I'm going to watch the view count go absolutely nowhere after it's uploaded. So we're going to talk Transformers again. And we're going to be talking Beast Machines today because it is going to be my next episode review project. I've got a few episodes of Beast Wars left to do, and we are absolutely at the mark for doing Beast Machines. So yeah, that's going to be the next project. So it's going to focus, of course, on the animation. So I figured today we're going to talk the Toyline, because the Toyline is fairly infamous for bombing. The Toyline itself bombed so badly that the plans to continue the Beast era with Trans-Tech one more step further in the techno-organic mix of vehicle and robot and animal accidentally got canceled, and now we are here. And then we get to the point where like RID, Armada, etc., full reboot. All because this Toyline did so badly. Now, there's a plethora of reasons. We're going to be talking about a lot of them. We're going to be examining this whole toy line and just figuring out exactly what went wrong and how many things went wrong with it. So just to start off with, and just to get us fresh up. So the problem with a lot of what happened in Beast Wars or Beast Machines, what people attribute it to the most is the accuracy of the toy. So here's what happens. The animation, the company that's actually making the cartoon, can produce animation episodes faster than the toys can be produced. At least back then that was the case. So many times the sculptors and designers for the toys would have to have the most preliminary art they could in order to base the toys off of. Now what happens is, as artists tend to do, while they're working on the cartoon, they will change their mind. They'll find out certain aesthetics don't work, or, the character can't do this because they have to be able to do that. This doesn't work in animation. This doesn't look good in motion, etc., etc. A lot of different reasons. Point being, between the point where they send off the artwork to Hasbro to start producing the toys and the moment that the show debuted, there's a big shift in artistry with the Beast Machines designers, to the point where, what we got looked nothing like what was on screen. Black Arachnia here is one of the few who actually managed to make it from initial concept to animation relatively unscathed. It's one of the better toys in Beast Machines, and it looks like she's supposed to look, except for the fact that she's purple instead of magenta. Have to wait for Takara to fix that, and now have to get it at exuberant prices. And there's other cases where obviously things went wrong. So here we see the Ultra Jetstorm toy. In the vehicle mode, things look fine. It's definitely bulkier. Of course it is. It's got a hide of physical robot. But then you get into the actual robot mode, and there's a lot that just does not match the animation model here. Obviously, like, he has legs for starters. He has thrusters holding him up, on the sides of his legs in that unileg mode. Big arm panels, big things hanging off the chest, etc., etc. It's just not the nice, clean, super sleek aesthetic that we're used to seeing out of Jetstorm in animation. The thing is, this was not based on Jetstorm. This was actually a character that was originally named Skybolt. I'll apologize right now for the potato quality of this. This picture is from 2000, so it is a little bit lacking in fidelity. Let's put it that way. But you can actually see, especially on the top of the vehicle and how it's shaped, where the shapes that we get the Beast Machines toys aesthetics from. This design is what eventually made it out into the toy shelves, even if it didn't make it into the cartoon. In fact, in the sketch of the robot mode you can actually see a lot of the elements that exist on the Ultra Class Jetstorm, right down to the covers for his thrusters on his unileg hanging off the side, as well as things like the visible cockpit and the extra wings and everything that are not hanging off of Jetstorm in the cartoon. That's just how fast it can change, and that's how radically it can change. Which means if we're looking at the Beast Machines toy line, we're looking at a version of Beast Machines we were never going to ever get, or what we were originally supposed to get. Taking a look at Optimus Primal, for instance. It's weird to me that, like, the toy production reached a point where they couldn't even change the color to be more accurate. You know, like, this one does have the gold and the blue, but it's just not distributed right at all. And of course, the Beast mode is even less accurate to how he looked in the show. You know, whereas, like, Deluxe Optimus Prime looks more just like an angry skeletal monkey rather than a gigantic ape that he was in the animation. So a little bit weird there. Now, they did try to fix it. Year 2 toys did take on far better aesthetics and far more accurate designs. The Blast Punch Optimus Primal being everyone's favorite example for show accurate. But that doesn't mean it was totally in the clear, because even into Season 2, we were still getting situations like Strika here, who unfortunately, not only is the toy not accurate to her aesthetic in the show at all, she's definitely not the big bruiser she's supposed to be. Again, she's not even her proper color. I know Hasbro is scared of releasing anything pink, but come on. You know, like, you're telling me that, like, the production of this was so weird you couldn't even get the color right. You couldn't even change the white to pink. See, I'm thinking to like when the alternator toys came out and how quickly they were able to change the color on tracks when they saw that went wrong. So it really makes me wonder what was different in the production just a few years prior that meant they could not even do something as simple as change a plastic color before the toy went to full production. It's weird. It's one of those elements I'm never going to know about this. So, yes, accuracy of the toys was a massive thing, according to this. Now, this is all down to just timing. It's just timing of the show, timing of the toy line. So that's all understandable. The part that gets me the most is scale. So, once again, thank you to Sabertron.com for being one of the only places doing good comparison photos. Here we have the maximal cast of the show at massively different scale with each other. So, obviously, this is, like, very bizarre to see a Silverbolt that is, like, half, or even less than half the size of a Rat Trap. You know, or to see, you know, Night Scream towering over everybody, even Cheetor, who's, like, supposed to be the tall one of the maximal cast. Now, this one actually does have another explanation to it. In Beast Machines, they had a different philosophy when it came to size classes and price points. It wasn't about putting characters at the size they should be to better represent the characters on screen. It was about what characters they thought would sell better at those sizes. So, for instance, you know, they didn't have much faith in a girl toy, so Black Arachnia has to be a deluxe, even though she probably could have been a mega, given how large her form was in the show. Or something like Silverbolt ending up being a $5 figure. They didn't expect Silverbolt to be a popular character in show, so down you go to just a $5 mark. And then there is, you know, then there's this guy. They really did think that Night Scream was going to be their big kid appeal character. They really thought that was going to be the breakout character of the show, and it just fell flat. Aside from it just being an unpleasant design, the character felt kind of self-inserty, kind of Mary Sue just a little bit. It's not a great depiction. It's not a great depiction. It doesn't help that this toy is also incredibly fragile, even for my grievances with clear plastic, which, by the way, I just had a clear plastic figure break right out of the box Go check my Twitter account to find that out. That was a lovely discovery. But in case of like Night Scream, like there really was no reason to make the toy as large as they did. It just felt pointless. It felt like they just drew a name out of a hat and went, "Okay, you're going to be a $25 figure this series." So I mean, it's not an incorrect approach, to be fair. Like if you think this character is going to sell well for you, okay, make it a bigger deal figure. Okay, we see that a lot in Transformers today, where big gimmicky toys are always the super popular characters. But there's always a counterpoint. Here, there was never ever, this was before we got like alternate versions of characters. In fact, this is the first series I can think of that actually had alternate versions of certain characters that we could buy at different price points. So, if I didn't like my Deluxe Optimus Primal, I could buy the Mega Class down the line. If I didn't like my Mega Class Cheetor, there's the Deluxe Cheetor coming out. Things like that. So, at the very least, they were trying something different. I'll give them credit for trying something different, and in a way, it makes sense. Rat Trap's is a popular returning character, so yeah, fine. Let's try giving him a Mega Class toy, even though he's always the smallest of the Maximals. It's bizarre, but in a weird way, that part actually kind of makes sense. And really, when the toys are going to be this wildly inaccurate to the animation in the first place, why not do something like this? It's not like it's going to make it any better or worse at that point. But keep in mind, it's not just the fact that it was like screen accuracy. Beast Machines had other toys that never showed up in the cartoon. And these also carried a myriad of other issues. So Blast Charge, we have talked about on this channel before, it's really not that great of a figure overall. It does have this very odd go body aesthetic to it, very scrawny and very weirdly proportioned for what it is, considering how big and bulky it is in vehicle mode. It's just strangely like squat and svelte at the same time, strangely enough. So there's generally like there are points where, yeah, there are definitely figures that are desirable amongst, like, especially the Viacons, but it really felt like they were trying really hard on the show character designs and then really kind of not trying on the non-show characters. Another one I point to here is Skydive, just an example. And Skydive is one of those toys where it feels like, and maybe this just makes sense to me, I don't know if this makes sense to anybody else, but some of the Beast Machines toys felt like the character got lost in the aesthetic. Does that make sense? Where like they were trying so hard to push the techno-organic side of this, and they're trying to mix so many elements to make it happen. You've got all these airbrushed paints and metallic paints. You've got lots of little details being sculpted and painted on. You've got some organic, some mechanical, some weird smooth blend of each. You've got translucent plastics beside metallic and standard. It felt like they were trying too hard to push too many aesthetics together, and it never felt cohesive to me. Like, it always felt like there was something off about Beast Machines aesthetics in general that just didn't seem like they made solid toys. Does that make sense to anyone else? Am I alone in that one? Because I might be alone in that one. And it just felt like they had some loose idea for the aesthetic, but then couldn't really figure out how to make it work. And that might just be me making that example, but I definitely feel like it's part of this. Another part of this is there really isn't, overall it's really kind of a small toy line. Like, especially amongst the Viacons that we kind of proclaim, like, these are the best figures in Beast Machines. Even a lot of those, there just weren't that many. To the point where Hasbro was bulking the line out with things like this. They were Beast Machines Dinobots. And these weren't like a sideline. These were part of the main waves. Wave 2 and 3 Deluxes were all Dinobots, molds pulled from Beast Wars Neo. Which, to be fair, they were brand new toys in America. We had never had those figures before. But they did not at all match the aesthetic of the show that was on TV at the time. It's a really weird juxtaposition and confusing on a toy shelf when you've got the same card back, but different art, different character aesthetic and designs, different logo and everything. But it's still technically Beast Machines. And it's weird. This was wave 2 and 3. Somehow, after so many different toys in Beast Wars, and very few repaints amongst Beast Wars, by the way, somehow amongst all of that, and producing so many toys in that line, they had so few ready to go in Beast Machines, they had to bulk it out with Japanese toys at wave 2. That's a little weird, and that should be a little bit concerning for a toy line. Oh, speaking of, the packaging on this one, this is the only artwork that Hasbro technically paid for box art, because everything else was just CG renders they borrowed from Mainframe. And for one reason or another, they decided that Cheetor was going to be the figure on every box art until second year Battle for the Spark toys when they switched it to Optimus Primal. It was a weird choice, and I get it. They wanted to push the main characters. They wanted it to, them to be the identity of the show. But it made the characters you were buying the toys for feel just so unimportant. It just took so much of the character away, especially when you're dealing with toys that are already aesthetically inaccurate to the animation models, like entirely. This completely separates what the character is and who they're supposed to be. Like this is, kind of like Thrust in the cartoon, but it is a very different looking toy. So if they actually had artwork of Thrust, a kid might have made the connection, but in this case, it probably hurt them. Probably hurt them a lot, just not have a proper representation. So, you're talking about brand confusion throwing in Dinobots out of nowhere. You're talking about brand confusion by not featuring character art on the box. How about this for brand confusion? You remember these? These are deployers. So beside your basic class $5 figures, you had these little animal bots that could turn into weapon emplacements. And really not like well done representations either. Not really well done weapon figures either. These are either, depending on how you look at it, these are either the evolution of the Action Master partner figure or a predecessor to a Battle Master. It is essentially just a figure that is done as an excuse to sell an extra big weapon accessory. And it's just not great. What is he doing? What is he doing? His name's Mole, by the way. Really pushing the boundaries of creativity with that name. Mole here is doing a handstand so he can throw a buzzsaw out his back at an unsuspecting Viacon. I think doing a handstand before you fire your weapon is a pretty big tell that something's on the way. And if that wasn't weird enough, chariots. Beast Machines had toy chariots. So the Beast Riders, there were two of these, Dragatron and Che, one based on Megatron, one based on Cheetor. And that was basically what they were. They were just like these deluxe-sized chariots that you were supposed to put a figure on top of, and they're vehicle toys. Except the only things that could really work with them were basic class figures, of which Cheetor and Megatron did not have any. So they don't really work for the character that they were designed after, and they don't really do a whole lot. They're really lame. I had a Plastic Addict review in the works because of these things, and I just couldn't make it work because there's just not enough. They're so lame and they're so dull. I can't even make fun of them for long enough to make a full video out of it. I'm talking about it in this segment longer than I could get through on a script for these things. And then, yes, you add this. So keep in mind, Beast Wars went out on a high, right? So Beast Wars got cut because Hasbro wanted to end the series on a high note when it was still riding high before it could dip into a lull and potentially risk the brand again. Hindsight's 20/20, isn't it? So at the time, they thought we could get away with doing larger toys that we haven't done since the 80s. we could actually make a, like a super tall transformer again and get away with it. So in comes Supreme Cheetor. Okay, again, credit for trying something different. Credit for being like, like actually putting some effort into something weird. We know about the toy. It's an infamously bad toy for a lot of different reasons. At least they tried, though. At least they tried. I can at least say that. So, throughout all this overall, yes, I am beating this toy line to death. I am taking a crowbar and I'm bludgeoning it like like it's Jason Todd. But you know what? Like, there are bright spots to the toy line. There are really good toys in Beast Machines. One of the reasons I hate translucent plastic so much is because a Beast Machines toy I liked a lot, Hammer Strike, I lost because of clear plastic randomly breaking on me, and I'm still upset about it. But the toy line itself and the series itself does have a lot of issues. You can blame a lot of things for its overall failure. You can blame the lower quality of the cartoon and the weirdness and the weird things they did to the characterization. You can blame the inaccuracy of the toys. You can blame the aesthetic of the toys not appealing to kids. You can blame the brand confusion. The truth is, the answer lies somewhere in the middle of this Venn diagram of all of it. It's just enough little things going wrong to make one big problem for the entire toy line overall. So it's not as simple as just the toys weren't accurate, because there's plenty of toys that were never in the show and never had to be accurate. It's that it's the wrong aesthetic at the wrong time, and it was just Hasbro not reading the room. Beast Wars was working. They decided to stop doing Beast Wars. And thus, this is what happens. So, in a way, it's great, because it led the way to things that made modern Transformers what they are today, and it led to a greater strength between Hasbro and Takara for designing future toys, which is what got us a lot of great figures in just a few years later after these. But it is upsetting because it's one of the best remembered series of Transformers, brought into a very, very low point before finally fizzling out, and it's unfortunate that it never got to go out on the high it deserved to. Maybe that would have been Trans-Tech, maybe not, but unfortunately, thanks to Hasbro ruining a good thing, we'll never know. So that is my overview of the Beast Machines toy line. That's my examination of what went wrong here. Maybe I'm off base. Maybe I'm just like jaded at this point because, I just don't like Beast Machines, yada yada. But honestly, there's parts about it I do like, and I'm sorry that the bad parts kind of ruin it. But it's just not that. There's just a lot of things that went wrong here, and I don't think it's any more complex than that. So let me know if you agree in the comments below, and I will see you next time. Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.